Hello chess friends and welcome to your of Chess channel and welcome to the grand final of the CrunchLabs Masters in 2024 that you can follow on chess.com. We have here Maxime Vachier-Lagrave against Alireza Firouzja. When we watch now, I think the whole event, I think it's a deserved final. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave played so far the best chess, I would say. He qualified to the grand final through the winners bracket, so Maxime didn't lose any matches in the event so far. On the other hand, Alireza lost some matches and actually qualified into the final through the losers bracket yesterday by winning his game against Jan Nepomniachtchi. So as I said, when we watch now the whole event, I think this is a fair final, and actually in this grand final also great things happened. First of all, they played 4 rapid games which ended with a draw, and you know the grip, then they have to play the so-called Armageddon game. Here Maxime had 10 minutes on the clock, Alireza Firouzja had only 8 minutes on the clock, and of course White needs to win the game. If the game ends with a draw, Alireza Firouzja is then the winner of the CrunchLabs Masters in 2024. Let's see now what happened. It was really a thrilling grand final. So with the white pieces, Maxime opened with the move e4. Alireza's response was e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5. The Rui Lopez, the Spanish game, is on the board. We have knight to f6, the popular Berlin defense, and now kingside castling. Now we have the real gambit accepted with knight takes e4, d4, trying of course to open the e file because the king is stuck still in the center. Knight to d6, standard line, and now for bishop to c6, d takes c6, we have now this line, d takes e5. White of course gets the pawn back and gets an extra tempo against the knight. After knight to f5, we have now the queens are off the board. Now after king to d8, again let's stop a little bit and evaluate the position. White has of course a good strategic plan to play here on this 4 versus 3 pawn majority to do something there. That's actually White's plan, to push the pawns on this side of the board. On the other hand, Black has of course the bishop pair. If the position opens, if the position gets dynamic, then the bishop pair is of course much better than maybe the bishop and the knight. So here still standard line, nothing spectacular. The position is about equal with good chances for both sides to win the game. We have now the move h3, bishop to d7, knight to c3, h6, not allowing here the move knight to g5 by White. Of course dangerous stuff then around the square f7. We have now the move b3 by Maxime. He's trying of course to develop the dark square bishop on this diagonal. We have now the move c5. We have rook to d1, indirectly hitting the king now of course through the d file. That's why Alireza escapes from any attacks, plays now the solid king to c8. So still we're, I think, in a very often played line. If you watch now for instance this position, Swidler against Ponomarev, Alexei Shirov against Arkady Naidich, Gata Kamsky against Zhang Shao. So many games in the database you see with different sidelines, with different opportunities, but I think again we can agree that this should be a pretty equal position. So it's really a battle for tiny little squares, for tiny little improvements of the pieces. So tough position to play for both sides for sure. So knight to d5 by MVL, simply occupying the center with his powerful knight. a5, trying of course to break and enter here also with the move a4 by Alireza. That's why a4 by Maxime, not allowing any progress on this side of the board. g5 by Alireza, and now c4. MVL fixes now this powerful knight, has also opportunities to play bishop to b2 and in some lines opening up maybe the diagonal for the dark square bishop. Bishop to e6, we have now bishop to b2. Of course you don't want to get rid of your bishop here, because then after c takes d5 you basically improve White's pawn structure. Look at this, White will have 2 mobile pawns in the center. I would even dare to say here game over for Black. So you have to tolerate this unpleasant knight so far on d5. We have now knight to e7, which becomes now a theoretical novelty by Alireza Firouzja. I didn't see now this line in the database, so it's a completely new move. Pretty solid again, I would say, simply challenging. As I said, this really unpleasant knight on d5. We have now the move h4, equalish position again, g4 by Alireza, hitting the knight, knight to h2, h5. Alireza fixes simply the structure on this side of the board. f4 here by MVL. If you play here g takes f3, then again something like g takes f3 could happen. Then maybe f4 f5. You can also occupy here maybe the g5 square after knight to f3, knight to g5. So that's why Alireza again kept it calm, played now the knight move on f5, and you see now the pawn on h4 is hanging, and I think somewhere MVL has maybe this line prepared because he played really fast here, and he calculated actually like an engine here, because it seems so that you're losing the pawn on h4, but MVL had everything under control. He plays now a beautiful knight to f1. The issue is if you play now knight takes h4, then the knight is coming on g3, and if you try to get back with your knight on f5, then after knight to f5, knight to f5, e6, and as we mentioned, this diagonal gets liberated, this pawn will be taken. Also in some lines maybe e7 could happen, trapping even the bishop here. Many dirty stuff can happen, or maybe you can try rook to g8 in this position instead of knight to f5 to escape from this attack. Then king to f2, a beautiful solid move here for white. Then after after king to f2, knight to f5, we pick up now this piece. After bishop to f5, now we can go for this one, and even if you try to protect it, look at this, knight to f6, you have to maybe go here to the h file and then knight to g4. So you cannot take the pawn, and the cool part is in this fast time format after knight to f5 and knight to f1, Alireza didn't play knight takes h4, which is really great. Both of them playing like machines here, really crazy position. So that's why Alireza continued with his plan here on this side of the board, rook to a6, going for the backward pawn on b3. Good strategic plan also for Alireza. We have now g3. Finally MVL fixes now the structure on the king side, knight to d4, good cementing move here for Alireza. And now of course knight to d2, preventing knight to f3, but also so far protecting the pawn on b3. We have now c6, finally also kicking away this knight to f4, but again with some plans to play in some lines maybe f5, e6, and again liberating this diagonal for the dark square bishop. We have now rook to b6, f5 is so far not a threat. Here Alireza goes for the b3 pawn, but MVL again calculates like a machine here. Really great counterplay. He first of all plays rook from a to b1. It's not allowing knight takes b3, because if you play that knight takes b3, then you get this one, bishop to c3. You can pick up of course this one, but then you lose the rook. You can maybe try this one, knight to c4, knight takes c4, bishop to c4, but white is up the exchange, has still this here maybe this 2 versus 1 situation where a pass pawn will probably be created, and the rook is already occupying the open d file, so not a good continuation. This one is very weak, so I think game over here for white. So for rook from a to b1, actually the best move here for black is to play the move bishop to e7, a calm move, and again black would be equal. Then of course getting the rook into the game, you cannot still play knight takes b3, but what Alireza played is really the first really mistake in the game. He played now an unnecessary king to c7, maybe again with the ideas to play knight takes b3 finally, because we saw that there are some tensions on the b file, and the rook could be lost because the knight could be pinned here on the b file, and Alireza hoped for that he could finally protect his rook on b6, but actually it's not working, because here MVL played a beautiful king to f2, and again you cannot take, because after knight to b3, knight takes bishop to c3, again pinning the knight. We have now maybe this one, knight takes d2, but now we can play this one, bishop to a5, and now the rook is pinned, and you try maybe knight to b1, rook takes b1. Look at this, c4 very weak. You will of course get the piece back here on b6, that's not an issue. And here I think again the c5 is weak, the c4 is protected. f5 could happen again, maybe with e6 breakthroughs, with bishop to c3 then later. So again I think white would simply rely on this beautiful 2 versus 1 situation with this potential mobility on this side of the board, and maybe creating a passer, and of course creating a winning endgame. So here after king to f2, MVL prevents knight takes b3 in a beautiful tactical way. After king to f2, bishop to e7, finally Alireza gets the bishop out, but it's a little bit too slow, because first of all bishop to c3, and also threatening here the move bishop to a5. We have now rook to a8 protecting this pawn, and now knight to e4. Good centralizing move here for MVL, getting of course use of this powerful squares here on f6, and if possible maybe here even on d6. We have now knight to f5. Alireza challenges now the knight on e3, and now actually MVL makes also a mistake, allows here I would say Alireza to get back into the game, because strategically when we watch now this position, it's of course not completely winning or something for white, but in the Berlin defense, the main issue is always, I think, this 4 versus 3, or like in this case, this 2 versus 1 situation. And now I think white in one particular moment of the game will break and enter somehow. So see, after knight to f5, MVL had now a beautiful choice to play rook to b2. It's very complicated. It's of course fast time format. No one can play an engine like maybe the Stallfish engine, but after rook to b2 the game becomes very spectacular, because of rook to a6 now you can pick up the knight here, bishop to f5, you get here this knight on d6, and after something like bishop to d6, e takes d6, you have to play something like, I don't know, king to d7, and now this rook is coming into the game. After a couple of trades of rooks, we can also occupy the 7th rank, allow here even white to pick up now the pawn on d6, but now look at this one is weak. You have to protect now this one will be probably taken, and now you can create here even 2 passers. If you for instance grab this h5 pawn, then the potential promotion comes of course with the support of the dark square bishop. So I would again say here completely busted position. Bishop to e5 will happen. There are even maybe even some checkmate threats if you play carelessly here with the black pieces. So not a good continuation here for black for sure. But instead of this move rook to b2, trying to occupy somehow the d file and also the d6 square, here knight to c2 by MVL, unnecessary passive move so far. MVL played really the perfect game. Alireza gets now finally the rook back into the game. We have rook to d2, and now finally Alireza can compete on the d file, and you see now Alireza got out of this mess. We have now rook from b to d1, rook takes d2, rook takes d2, and again we have gained equality. Again, a good position now for both sides. Rook to a8, again Alireza is trying to compete on the d file. We have knight to e3, we have b6, finally also protecting this weak a5 pawn. Knight to f5, bishop to f5, knight to d6, but now this position is not so dangerous, because after bishop to d6 and rook to d6 here, Alireza still has this opportunity to play bishop to e6, fixing everything, protecting also this pawn. Again, a perfect equalish game. Again, the issue is, although maybe white has some attacking possibilities here, these are opposite color bishops, and in many occasions these endgames are ending with a draw. But now MVL has to win the game. He spices up really the game with a beautiful king activity. He tries first of all to move king to e3, rook to e8. Again, as I said, equal position, but now a stunning f5, and this is the only way to make progress somehow here, because after bishop to f5 now MVL goes active with the king. So here MVL lost the pawn but has now the better king, and also I think we can agree he has the better rook, which is already occupying now the 6th rank. So we have now bishop to c2. Alireza goes now for this pawn, but now rook to f6, first of all hitting this pawn, rook to e7. Here MVL forces a passive move by Alireza, protecting of course this pawn, but now MVL goes for this one. And as I mentioned, the potential promotion comes always with the support of the dark square bishop. The engine here again gives equal chances, maybe even slightly edge for black, if black of course plays now the game correctly. We have now bishop to b3 by Alireza, so far so good. King to h5, bishop to c4. Alireza is grabbing now many pawns on this side of the board, but MVL has now this clear passer on the h file. Bishop to e6, a check, king to f4, and now b5. Good move by Alireza, pushing here simply on this side of the board. We have bishop to a5, allowing here this check, but again here the issue is that black can create 2 connected passers, and in the potential endgame this is strategically much better. And as I said, if black plays now the perfect game, I would dare even to say that this is completely winning for black, but now Alireza messed it up. He played now the move king to d7, which is not good, because you're getting the king towards the center, but actually your king has to go to this side of the board where you are expanding, where you are trying to do something. And the good part about this move rook to b7 would have been that you will eventually get an extra tempo with king to a6 against this bishop on a5. Let's see now potential continuation. Of course, white and black don't have to play the game like this, but I wanted to show really the issue now in white's position. You're trying maybe something like a takes b5, as I said, c takes b5, and you have now a good strategic element in the endgame, two connected passers, which is, I think, unstoppable here for white. Now you can maybe try h5, but black will simply push the pawn further. You can play, of course, h6, rook to e8, h7, and now we can block it out. Now, of course, white supports. We go now with the tempo, as I said, very important here. We get an extra tempo. Black get challenged in this way, maybe with bishop to d8, but now you can actually pick up even the bishop, because the threat was obviously bishop to f6 and then a potential promotion. But actually you can now pick it up, allow here the promotion, give back here the piece, but now with two connected passers, with a very close king and with the support of the bishop, I think it's game over for white. Black will promote one of those pawns for sure, and this is winning for black. Maybe a drawish position, but of course Alireza needs only a draw. But after bishop to a5, Alireza went to the center of the board, which is not good. Usually you should play towards the center with your king in a potential endgame, but this king is not doing now anything in the position, and here MVL simply plays a bishop to b6, attacks now the pawn. Alireza takes, but you see now he doesn't have any more two connected passers, which is also a different kind of a pawn structure. These are not such dangerous pawns like in the previous line. Now here after bishop to c5, Alireza has to step back. MVL pushes the pawn further, and again the engine says this should be equal if again both players play now the perfect game. But now after rook to a8, Alireza is trying to push the pawn. MVL blocks it out with bishop to a3. Good move by white here. And now c5, another blunder here by Alireza. A better choice is to play rook to g8. This is the only way. This is the only move that Alireza can play in order to stay in the game, because you're trying, of course, with the white pieces to push the pawn here, but now you deliver a check, and this check is very important because now you're forcing the king to retreat on the third rank. And now again you go with rook to g8 after potential h7, rook to h8, and rook to h6. The issue is now we have this square for the bishop. You see in the previous line the king was on f4 and you could not play the move bishop to f5. Now you will finally get this pawn, and again I think it will be completely drawish position. But what Alireza did, he played now the move c5, and you see the king is very active. The king is still marching towards this side of the board. MVL simply pushes the pawn. We have rook to h8, bishop to c5, king to c6, again bishop to d6. Everything is compact here, everything is glued together. Or king to d5, we have g4, rook to a8, and now simple h7. You have to again step back, rook to h6, king to c4, and now MVL goes simply with the king. You saw in the previous line how important it was to play rook to g8 and then rook to g4, forcing the retreatment of the king. Now the king is the most important even piece here on the board. After king to b3, king to f6, and bishop to g4, and king to g7 in this particular position. Alireza Firouzja resigned. MVL won the game. MVL won the Armageddon, and MVL won this first division of the CrunchLab Masters in 2024. Fully deserved. MVL outplayed also Magnus Carlsen in this event, played really sharp, beautiful tactical chess, really aggressive chess. Also in this game he spiced up the game with his amazing pawn sacrifice just in order to get somehow the king active in the game. So stunning ideas here. Although it's a fast time format, I think we have seen really an amazing chess game. So congratulations to MVL for winning the CrunchLab Masters. As I said, I think we have a fair winner of this spectacular chess tournament on chess.com. So okay, if you want to see some other chess games that we have analyzed so far in this event, check out some videos. Here are the links, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. What do we say at the end? Chess is the best, of course.